What's up everyone, this is Tranquil Toys with another review. This time taking a look at the brand new Play Arts Kai Yuffie Kisaragi figure. This is from the Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 called Rebirth. And so this is the new figure of the most recent design of this character from the second part of the remake. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a fan of the remakes. They ruined the original story, but I do like the designs of the characters, which is why I have so many of these Final Fantasy VII Play Arts Kai figures. And then I also have the Bring Arts figures, which are more based on the original designs, not the remake. And I do have the previous release version, which was from the first part of the remake, and I'll do a comparison between those two. That's pretty much it for the intro. I'm really excited to get into this figure and to talk about the things that I like about it and things that I don't really like about it, and of course comparing it with the older version of the figure, and there's a lot of things to talk about there as well. So the first thing we'll go over the accessories, what the figure comes with. So of course you get the stand, you get two different types of grips. We're all familiar with that, and if you know me, you know I really don't like those stands, but it does help the figure to stand because it is hard to get the figure to stand on its own feet, and it's hard to get it into poses without it falling over because the feet are not very stable. She has her weapon, her giant shuriken. You can see the materia there, various details, and you see the different colored materia there, which is really cool. I like when they add details like that. Wrapping around the handles as well. Very similar to the shuriken that came with the original figure, which if you don't know, I did review that figure, so you can look at that review. And we get an alternate face right here, which is a yelling, angry face, which is pretty good. A lot better than the previous release. Then we get the neutral face, which is on the figure. And this one is also very good. So I really like how these two new faces turned out. And then we also get a set of hands, and it's the same set as with the previous figure. So here, the different hands that come with the figure, two fists, and of course one is covered with that armor piece that she has. This one, the pinky is kind of messed up on this. I think I have to heat that up. I don't think that's the way it's supposed to look, because it does look kind of odd. So I think that's like warped, it got warped in the packaging or something. Some added small details here and there that differentiate it from the original release or the original design from the remake. But anyways, let's take a close look at the figure and take a look at the details of the figure. The face, the eyes are really nice and glossy. You got the headband underneath the hair. The hair came out really nice. And you have the two braids also came out really nice. They're not posable. They're just kind of there. And you have her sweater, kind of like a turtleneck kind of thing going on, reminiscent of Cloud, which is interesting. Kind of see this fashion style pop up more than once with the Final Fantasy games. She has like an armor covering part of her neck there. Got the straps. One thing I have to point out is the end of the belt here actually came unglued when I was articulating her torso. So here's the part right here. I'm gonna glue it. I just want to show you that it broke off. So you got to be careful when articulating the torso there. Really good sculpting over everything. It's one of the upsides of these figures is that you get sculpt and paint everywhere. And again, this is a different design for her armor on her arm. And then you got the various belts and straps on the gauntlets. And then more armor on the side. Then her shorts, another design choice that I really like. I think it's underrated. I think it's a really underrated design choice. But nice detail on the shorts. I like the color. She has a holster for kunai knives. Unfortunately, she doesn't have any that she can hold in her hand and throw. Would have been a good addition. In the back of her shorts, not really sure what this symbol is. Kind of an interesting symbol. To me, it looks like a dove, but if you guys know what that symbol is, let me know in the comments. And then down to her leg warmers, another design choice. Shows up a few times in the Final Fantasy series. It's kind of one of the fashion styles in Japan during the time. Then her orange sneakers with the white laces. The figure looks awesome. I think it's a really good design. They did a good job bringing it to action figure form. Now in the articulation department, there are a few things that I have a problem with, and it's kind of the same problems that we've encountered before with these figures, but the joints feel really flimsy. The joints feel pretty flimsy, and I'm just going to start from the head and go down with the articulation. Neck articulation is actually very good. We have a dumbbell joint up here. Looks like a dumbbell joint down there as well. So we do get a lot of articulation from the neck. Of course, swivel. She can look down that far and look up that much. and a lot of tilt, which is good. This is a very expressive character, so it's really good that you're able to get that much articulation out of the neck. Now in the arms, it's a little bit different the way they did this because of the armor pieces and stuff like that. So the shoulder over here comes up that far, goes down, and it's a ball joint going into a socket, so you can slightly shift it backward and forward and up and down. Then we have a bicep swivel down here at the armor. There is a lot of separating that happens, which is another negative thing, is that some of the parts don't really fit well together. And again, that's a problem that we've seen with some of the PlayArts Kai in the past. Then we have a double jointed elbow. It's a pretty ugly joint. I would prefer if it was a different kind of joint with more sculpting to the elbow. And it's another one of those joints that swivels within the elbow sculpt. So one of the problems with this is that when you swivel it, it warps the sculpt of the elbow or of the bicep. It's pretty unfortunate, and you can see right there how it kind of kicks out right there. So it's because of that. No articulation in the forearm, but you come down to the wrist, and it's a hinge, so it hinges up and down, and then it swivels from both ends of the joint. Allows for a lot of articulation for the wrist. Over here on the other side, I do have to mention this armor piece does come off very easily, so it doesn't really attach all the way, and that seems like that's a problem with all Yuffie figures, because I also had that problem with the Bring Arts version of the figure, and I'll show that off later in the comparisons. But here it's sort of the same. The sculpt is slightly different, and there's a lot of armor sculpting and stuff like that on there, but it goes up that far with the armor. You're only able to get up that far, and it does rotate all the way around. You have a bicep swivel. It doesn't line up with the belt, which is kind of, a missed opportunity. It's just right above the belt, so it still works like a swivel though. And then we have these pieces of armor here, and I think they all pretty much articulate. I'm going to take off this shoulder piece, and here you can see it's kind of a softer kind of plastic. This right here shifts up and down to get out of the way when you bend the elbow. This one right here hinges up and down as well, and then this is on a kind of a ball joint. You can sort of see that in there. So all that, so you can move the elbow up about that far. But you can still see that ugly joint. It just breaks up the illusion. It breaks up the illusion of the armor, especially because it's skin color and it's flat. No articulation in the arm here. And then we do have another of the same wrist joint. Less articulation because you have this giant piece of armor here. Coming down to the torso, do have the upper torso here, which is a dumbbell joint. You can go down about that far and back that far. Same thing in the lower torso. It's just a ball joint coming up from the waist into the lower torso, and that goes that far down and then back a little bit further, and then both combined go that far down, that far back, side to side as well, which is pretty good. And then of course swiveling, no hindrance to the swivel there. Then coming down to the legs. Now this leg on the right here is kind of loose. Usually there's a clicking sound when you move the legs. The joints here are not as stiff as other joints, so you might think that's a good thing, but this one is actually kind of loose, so that's kind of unfortunate. But they do swivel very good. They move out that far, then go to the back a little bit. Upper part of the shorts here is a soft plastic, so it does get out of the way of the legs. We have a thigh cut for the legs, so you can swivel them right under the shorts. And this, okay, so this thing just came off. There's like a glue residue or something, I'm not sure, because it wasn't glued in. It's, you saw me swivel it earlier, but now it's like really loose and falling out, so that kind of sucks. Maybe it wasn't supposed to swivel, I don't know. But anyways, knees also pretty ugly, kind of reminiscent of McFarlane figures, which is not a good thing. And then no articulation until you get down here. There's sort of two spots where there's articulation for the ankle. So up here you get a hinge and a swivel. Down here, but similar to the wrist joint, you can hinge it up that far, down that far. You can swivel it on there, and then you can also swivel it on that joint, and then you have a toe articulation as well. So that's it for articulation. It's just kind of the durability of some of the joints. It's just not there, and there's some looseness here and there. Some parts that don't fit right here and there. It's kind of something that a lot of people say when they talk about Square Enix figures or the PlayArts Kai or the Bring Arts Kai. These figures cost a lot, and they just still haven't really pinned down that quality. But you know, nonetheless, despite those problems, I still really like this figure. I'll go ahead and show you what the alternate face looks like. So there's what the yelling face looks like. Now I'm going to bring in the old figure and I'll do a comparison between the two, see what parts we can swap over. So here's the old Yuffie, and she had her disguise, her Moogle disguise. And if you know from my review of the figure, like I said, it's on my channel if you want to watch it. I removed the cloak off, revealed the rest of the figure underneath. And so you can actually take off all the extra pieces of you know, the cloak and the armor and things like that. You can actually take that off. There's a lot of differences, but there's a lot of similarities as well. The sculpt of the shirt is actually different. So you see this harness coming down here is a different sculpt. The harness coming up here is a different sculpt. So they didn't just reuse the lower part of this, or the underneath part of this figure, to make this new one. It's actually very different. Shorts are very different as well. And then of course the leg accessory down here, the suspenders into the metal cuff, into the fishnet, that's a part of the original design from the original game. So from the shorts down is a part of the original design from the original game. So if you want your figure to reflect that, you can swap the torso, the lower half of this figure, onto the new figure. I'll show you what that looks like. And this is basically the closest you can get to the original costume design. So if you wanted to do that, it is possible. Swapping it the other way around, the new legs on the old body, this is what you get. So in the new redesign, they didn't have the exact same outfit. There are a lot of differences. She has a belt now and her shorts are completely closed. Again, that was a fashion style that was popular at the time. The leg accessories and the color of the shoes are also very different. Color of the leg warmers, different. It's a lot more white over here, a little bit gray over here. Shorts, slightly different. You can see for yourselves, the colors are not really the same. The sweaters underneath, also different green, different sculpt, and armor looks like the same, and on the arm it's the same sculpt. You just have more shading on the new one. It's not as glossy looking. This is very shiny and reflective. This is not. So they put a matte finish over this. Paint and the coloring is slightly different. Then of course, this is one of the biggest differences here is with the armor, or the guard on her arm. So this is again more like that traditional style, more of the original, which we can see here with the Bring Arts version. So that's more of the original design. Then over here, more of that new design. I'm not sure which one I prefer more. I should prefer the original one more, but I think I actually prefer this more. It just looks a lot more like armor rather than this. This just looks kind of like bread. And you can put the old armor on the new figure as well to have more of that classic look. I have the legs changed back, but you can imagine it. You can do that as well, but this looks really odd right here, how it just stops right there. But that is something that is possible. Then we can also compare the heads. So here's the old one, here's the new one. You can tell the paint on the new one is way better than the old one. The hair sculpt is also slightly different. And also the coloring. Coloring is also different as well. And also the braids on the back. These were cut short and these were kept long. One thing I was really looking forward to doing is seeing if the old faces can fit on the new body. Even though the old faces are not as detailed as the new faces, there's still different expressions that you can put on the figure. So for example, we don't get this expression with the new figure. So I'm going to see if the old faces will fit on the new head. Okay, so it does work. So that's awesome. That's exactly what I was hoping for, because now you just get a whole nother level of expressiveness from this figure. So here's the old one, here's the new one again. Expressions are slightly different. This one's a little bit more angry or serious. This one's a little bit more relaxed. So there is some use you can still get out of the old faces. There's another one of the old faces on the new body. And that also looks pretty good. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. Then again, here it is next to the Bring Arts. And again, the shoulder armor is not on here because it kept falling off. So I don't even have it on there anymore. Real quick, let's see if the cloak fits. I don't really know why anyone would want to do that, but it does fit. So you can do with that whatever you want. Here's the old shuriken right here. Here's the new one. You see the colors of the materia have been reversed, which is interesting. Pretty much everything else is kind of the same. And then the very last thing I'll show is a quick height comparison with the PlayArts Kai Cloud. So maybe Yuffie is maybe a little bit too tall. So I guess the height is good. Kind of imagine Yuffie being a little bit shorter than that, but I guess it's fine. Anyways, that's it. You guys let me know what you think about this figure. If you have it, let me know what you think about this review. If you have any questions, let me know. Try my best to answer it. Follow me on Instagram at TryingToKillToys. That's all I got to say about this figure. So we'll see you in the next one.
Don't follow trends. Trends don't work in a collection. You will not care about something that you bought because it was trendy if you don't actually care about the thing in the first place. So don't follow trends, because you're not going to care about the thing unless you care about it before the trend. Once the trend dies, which is what trends do, you won't care about it anymore, so don't do it.